What is thought? Surely, thought is the result of the past, isn't it? Thought is founded upon the reaction of the past, of yesterday, and of many, many, many yesterdays. You would not be capable of thinking if there was no yesterday. So, thought is the result of the responses, conditioned responses established in the mind as the past. The mind is the result of the past. That is, thinking is a response to memory. If you had no memory, there would be no thinking. If you had no memory of the way to your house, you could not get there. So thinking is the response of memory. Memory is a process, a residue of experiences, whether immediate or of the past. The experiences are contact, sensation, desire, which create experience. That is, through contact and sensation, there is experience. That experience leaves a residue, which we call memory, whether pleasant or unpleasant, profitable or not profitable. That residue, from that residue is the response, which we call thinking, conditioned according to different environmental influences and so on, so on, so on. That is, the mind, not only the upper levels of consciousness, but the whole process is the residue of the past. After all, you and I are the result of the past. Our whole conscious process of living, thinking, feeling is based on the past. And most of us live on the upper levels of consciousness. On the superficial mind. There we're active, there we have our problems, innumerable contentions and everyday questions and so on, so on, so on. And with that we are satisfied. But surely what is above, so little shown, is not the whole content of consciousness. To understand the whole content of consciousness, the superficial mind must be quiet. Even for a few seconds, few minutes. Then it is possible, is it not, to uncover, to receive what is below. Now, if thought is merely the response of the past, then the thought process must cease for something new, mustn't it? If thought is the result of time, which it is, then to have the intimation of the timeless, of something that which you do not know, the thought process must come to an end, mustn't it? To receive something new, the old must cease, mustn't it? If you have a new picture, modern picture, and if you would understand it, you can't approach it with your classical training. At least for the time being, you must put it aside to understand the new. Similarly, to understand that which is new, timeless, the mind, which is the instrument of thought, which is the residue of the past, must come to an end. And the process of ending thought, though it may sound rather crazy, is not come by discipline, is not come through so-called meditation. Because we'll discuss that presently in the following weeks, what is right meditation and so on. But we can see any action on the part of the mind to make itself come to an end is still a process of thought. So this problem is really quite arduous and quite subtle to go into. Because there can be no happiness, there can be no joy, no bliss, unless there is creative renewal. And this creative renewal cannot take place if the mind is constantly projecting itself into the future, into the tomorrow, into the next second. And as it does all the time, most of us are uncreative. We may produce babies, but inwardly creative, that extraordinary sense of renewal, that sense of new, a renewal in which there is constant newness, freshness. In which the mind is totally absent. That sense of creativity cannot take place if the mind is merely projecting itself constantly into the future, into the tomorrow. That's why it's important to understand the whole thought process. Without understanding the thought process, all its subtleties, its varieties, its depth, you cannot come to the other. You may talk about it, that you have stopped thinking. Sounds crazy. But to have that renewal, that freshness, that extraordinary sense of otherness, the mind must understand itself. And that's why it's important that there should be deeper and wider awareness of self-knowledge.
You've been listening to J. Krishnamurti in one of a series of lectures called Self-Knowledge. Today's topic was Action, Relationship, Thought. These lectures are being broadcast on KPFK on Sundays at 12 noon. And each lecture will be rebroadcast the following Friday afternoon at 2:30. They were recorded at Ojai in 1949. We have been announcing that transcripts were available. The supply has run out, and transcripts to these lectures are no longer available. This is KPFK, listener-sponsored radio in Los Angeles.